So, in this episode of the Daily Healing, we're talking about grounding with Roya Darling, and she is a healer and intuitive, and she does really powerful work. When Roya and I met in person for the first time, it was literally like I had met a sister. And so we just really connected and we just understood each other. And I just so appreciate her experiences and her authenticity. You know, she's been through a lot in her life, and she has a really beautiful perspective on all of the things that we experience. And she also speaks this very wise, she just comes from this wisdom that is, it feels ancient, just how she puts her words together and how she explains things. So I hope you enjoy this episode. She'll give you some ideas for grounding and does a little grounding exercise for you to enjoy as well. And please feel free to leave a review and subscribe to the Daily Healing and enjoy this episode. Thank you so much. Now we'll get into it. Let's just get in. So when was the first time that you realized that grounding was something that was healing?
Great question. So, so it was around my early 30s, when I had a life crisis and I started searching for non-traditional ways to understand myself, to make sense of myself. And a psychic intuitive came into my life. And it was through working with her for a few years that she started to teach me about energy, to start looking and shifting to looking at things through the lens of energy. But one of our first sessions, which was so impactful to me at the time, was she said, "You're so like zoomed out of your body."
Mm.
She's like, "Your spirit is like a couple of feet above your body." And she proceeded over many sessions to explain to me what that means, what the consequences of that I had been dealing with for a long part of my life was being so disassociated, right? So disconnected from myself that I was essentially just open. I wasn't home. And
Yeah.
so, so as an empath already, of just absorbing, other people's moods, whatever else was coming through, and not understanding that so much of what I was experiencing, depression, anxiety, was from not being not being here on earth in my body.
Yeah.
And so when that kind of, clicked for me, that it's like, it's so important. She's like, I want you, like your homework is to just feel the bottoms of your feet and say, my name is Roya, and like the date. Because
Mhm.
she's like, you need to come onto planet Earth. And I'm like, okay, I got it. And so it was very simple, which speaks to me because I like very simple.
Sure.
And so I would just, I'd feel my feet on the ground, I'd feel the bottoms of my feet, and I just did that all throughout the day to enough times and over enough period of time where I started to be able to get enough presence in my body and in my field where I could start increasing my frequency enough to have enough self-initiative and sacred action, we'll say, to want to start improving my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, the world that we live in right now with everything going on, we have like what we're personally experiencing on our journey, and then we have what's going on in the world. And so it feels like the majority of people are not grounded, right?
Completely. And then this is the reflection of the times of, as things collapse, as instability rises to clear out, it's going to create an unstable ground, an unstable field.
Right.
And so this is why, it is essential to start with making sure we've got our feet on the ground here, because it is so easy to get derailed right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing that I find interesting is people who are healers or people who are kind of connected with the spirit world tend to
Mhm.
be super ungrounded and have to have really solid grounding practices. And I'm curious, like, kind of what your thoughts are on that. Cause I know that I have a lot of people who are either um, healers that they don't realize that they're healers yet, or people who are actively healers, whether they're yoga instructors or that type of thing, and they know that they're ungrounded often. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, I'm just textbook for that
Yeah.
I'm textbook in that I came into this life experience with a connection, right? And with some of my psychic gifts open. However, with not being grounded, not honoring the temple, and I do want to go into that at some point, the importance of honoring the temple, the physical temple, not honoring it, not respecting it, rejecting it, hating it, not really being at a point where I could understand the sacredness of this, of having this human experience. What that meant was that I was getting a lot of information that probably was getting distorted and potentially hijacked, but also I could not materialize any of it here. I could not pull anything through to create in a tangible form.
Mhm.
And so this is what I see across the board with kind of your typical empath psychics, is that they've got all these ideas and all these things coming through, but they can't do anything with it because you have to create through your physical body.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. And
Hmm.
so, how, when you start your day, do you
Hmm.
have a grounding practice that you actively do every day? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, so because of the nature of my work too, just working with so many different people and working in the energetic realm, it is essential. I mean, I live in a very grounded place.
Yeah.
So we live on a farm right now. So just by going out and just feeling my feet on the ground, we oftentimes as a family will actually place our hands on the ground too, because there's something really powerful about connecting your hands with the earth plane and
Yeah.
just like breathing into that oneness. So that's something I do throughout the day.
Yeah.
But in the morning, it really is important for me to land and be here. So Andrew and I have like a ritual morning, which is very grounding for us that involves making a
Playing backgammon.
playing backgammon, making a hot beverage, walking the dog. And, oftentimes we may do like a couple of minutes of silence just to get into just to get beyond our thoughts.
Mhm.
And so even just our morning with those little rituals are really important to starting a grounding day. And then I'll just say one other thing, because I'm more of the type of person, it's just totally my signature, which is I'd rather do a lot of simple things throughout the day than necessary. And I do think there's a place for it, but I'm not necessarily the person who wakes up and meditates for hours.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and it could just be the nature of my life right now,
Yeah. No,
right?
I'm the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I would rather just have like moments of presence and mindfulness like sprinkled out throughout the day.
Same.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I talk about in the work that I do with the daily healing is, I have these seven simple practices for, to be your own greatest healer, and they're simple. And so the thing is, I'm writing the book about it right now. And with each one of the practices, it's not like, for movement, you need to go to the gym all the time. Or for, if that is something that feels like that's what you want to do, then that is, but it's more about the awareness. So like
Hmm.
you're aware of the importance of being grounded. So
Hmm.
the things that you're doing when you're grounding, you're aware of the fact that you're being present right now. Do you know what I mean?
Completely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I always love the framing that the moment that, let's say you just got pulled into a thought, or the moment you realize that you're distracted, or the moment you realize that you're just kind of doom scrolling, is the
Mhm.
moment that you now are present.
Yeah.
So it's just like it happens so quickly where you can shift into that awareness and now you're present.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just to even understand that even the little bits of moving into presence throughout the day is strengthening a deep remembering within you.
Right. Well, so let's talk about that concept of, hold on, social media, right?
Yes.
Like, I think social media is one of the most ungrounding things that we're all experiencing on a collective level right now. And I think
Hmm.
it's a real test, you know, and I'm hearing, you know, a lot of people, whether it's clients, my cat is just really into me right now. Um, and that's grounding, by the way. That was a
Yes.
grounding thing. Anyway, I people are really fighting with their kind of addiction, I want to call it, to the social media doom scrolling, whether it's that or just getting sucked in and for a period of time, which is very ungrounding. And you
Mm-hmm.
know, I think, you know, as a business owner, you know that you have to be on social media, have to, right? Like you can choose to be on it more or less if it's, you know, achieving results for you or whatnot. That's a side topic. But I, you know, for people who are kind of in that tug of war in terms
Yes.
of wanting to be there or wanting to pull themselves away, you know, what are your thoughts on that? You know, what do you
I
think about
mean,
that?
I feel like I have a lot of thoughts on that. I think I feel like that's one of our biggest battlegrounds. It's it's oftentimes necessary to people's livelihood, or it can be necessary to people feeling some sense of connection, especially in this kind of fragmented world. However, there is absolutely, because as soon as we go on to social media, you are absolutely right. We are leaving the physical world.
Yeah.
We are moving into another realm that oftentimes people don't understand the complexity of the things that can happen there. And so here we have, people getting out of presence, you know, abandoning their home, abandoning their temple, coming onto social media, and then going into outrage,
Yeah.
which is part of the design.
Right.
Right? It's part of the design to keep people in this state of, I'm scared, so I need to go on and I need to keep checking because I don't know what's coming next. And I'm understanding this existential like crisis that's happening on the planet right now. And so that's feeding my need to know, but also my need to know is also creating, some mental health concerns. And all of this stuff is happening. And then you go on and the algorithms are pushing things that will elicit outrage, will
Yes.
elicit people like jumping out even more. So we have a lot of unconscious people on social media who have abandoned ship. And then there's other energies coming in. And this is when we start to see things like group psychosis. This
Yes.
is this is when we start to see mob mentality, where they are policing and they are, outraged and going after people for not being compliant to
Hmm.
how they think people should be behaving and speaking. And so it becomes this layered jungle
Yeah.
of how to navigate it and stay in your center and stay grounded and, in composure. I get every time there's like a what I call like a collective flare up. So something's happened that's outraged people.
Yeah.
I'm always like, oh geez, because people will come at me simply because I'm not feeding it.
Right.
They'll call it a lot of different things, they'll label it, but they get very triggered and reactive to people who are not joining that outrage,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I know, it's interesting. It's like when people are having conversation. And you know what's funny is I was talking to Bobby about this yesterday, my husband. I was talking to him about the fact that, you know, you have all these paradigms right now of division,
Mhm.
political, whatever, whatever, whatever. We could go down the line of all these divisions. And then you have the fact of whether or not you're involved in it or not is another division. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like,
Absolutely.
yeah, at some point in time, people need to get grounded in the fact that that is not something that is helping us, right? And if we want to
Yes.
get grounded in this present moment of what is true,
Hmm.
that is not a part of it. Do you know what I mean? Because if you,
Completely.
most of the time, if you look at the news or you look at social media, you have all of this stuff going on. But then when you look outside your home, or when you
Mm.
go to the market, or when you are engaged in a, you know, work endeavor, whatever that is, you're not experiencing that division. It is to
Yes.
some degree a manufactured illusion. Yes,
Hmm.
it's happening. Yes, there are wars in the world. Yes, there is, stuff going on. However, is it important that every single person, if you think about it kind of on the micro level, if you have friends
Hmm.
who are in an argument, is it your business that that's going on between them? Not really. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So it's like
Hmm.
on one hand, you want to support humanity, but
Hmm.
on the other hand, it's gotten kind of out of control. And then there's the manufactured aspect of it. So it's like, in order to
Yes.
stay grounded and in order to show up as the best humans, the best version of ourselves that we can be in order to serve the reason why our soul is here at this time, does it make the world a better place for us to get involved in that? We have to
Absolutely.
ask ourselves that.
We do have to ask ourselves that. And we have to be, and this is where we have to be okay with people misunderstanding us.
Yes.
Because if you haven't trained to look at things through the lens of energy and
Yeah.
frequency,
Yeah.
then you will not understand when I say our biggest offering is our frequency.
Yeah.
People will not get it. They will think it's bypassing, they will think that it's avoidance. And so there's something about having to just rest in that discomfort of being like, okay, I'm okay being misunderstood.
Yeah.
And when we get to a point where maybe we can start seeing the energetic landscape, and that what we're doing is we are confronting a very old consciousness that's purging. And so what happens is people get outraged, they get hijacked, and then they're just in the same consciousness. So it's like the same consciousness fighting the same consciousness. And I think at some point there will be even more openings and awareness that the only thing that's going to shift the old is to bring through a new consciousness and confront it from that place.
Yeah. Very well said. Yes.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's play. If
Hmm.
we had our if we could make everybody in the world understand the importance of grounding, what do you
Yes.
think that would shift in this whole paradigm of these division tactics and all of these things going on?
So I feel like, and I'll speak personally. When I started to understand the importance of grounding, to just take a moment to come back home, to feel my feet on the floor, feel my feet on the earth, and to even take a few moments of silence so that I could practice feeling who I was beyond my personality.
Mhm.
What that does is it gives you choice. When you can start to feel your awareness beyond your ego mind, you now have choice. And so I think that that is ultimately what it gives us. It gives us choice so that I can say, okay, I'm practicing over and over again to ground my energy, to feel who I am beyond my, human experience, so that I can now say, do I want to, you know, continue with this thought or continue with this, action? Or do I want to pause and say, okay, I have now the capability to be more open to doing something different. And when I do something different, that starts to break all of um, that kind of automatic response that we're doing, that default. And that's ultimately where we start expanding and improving and raising our frequency.
Yeah. Yes. And so for people who don't really understand what it means to be grounded, what's the very basic description? And we'll go through a little grounding exercise at the end, but I want to know, like, for people who are listening who are like, okay, I understand all of this that you guys are talking about, energy and frequency and whatever, but what does that look like for me in my day-to-day life?
Yeah. So the
I
way
mean,
that,
aside from what you were just saying, but
well,
kind of in a
no,
more
and it's
basic level.
and very basic. And I love that because you're going to hear so many different responses to this. And mine is very much about, I like to use, my hand as an example, which is ultimately, here's my physical body, right? And it's on earth, it's here on earth because the physical body is an offering from the earth, it's one with the earth. And here's our spirit, right? And our spirit comes in and ideally kind of fits into not only our physical body, but into our energetic field that we have here on the earth plane as well. And if we are, in a reactive state where, there's a lot of trauma we haven't processed, we haven't learned how to, create safety within ourselves, within our bodies, then like me for many years, then we'll just be like up here with our physical body down here. And so for me, being grounded really means an integration of like our higher awareness with our human experience. It's
Mhm.
an integration. And so it means that now I'm in my multifaceted expression, and I can now get those downloads, those messages, those divine inspirations. And through my physical body, which is what allows us to create here on earth, now I can create in the energy of the divine, like with the divine.
Mm, I love that. That's so beautiful. Yes. Everybody does have a different way of saying it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like
And
for me,
oh no,
like
go
one
ahead.
of the most important things for me, like if I'm talking to a child and I'm trying to explain like being grounded, it's more just being in this moment, not worrying about the
Yes.
past, not worrying about the future, just being here now. Just this,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
And especially important for people who have anxiety because anxiety tends to pull you out of your body, just like you were talking about. And I think it's really important as just with all of the things that we're talking about with all these division. And then you also have like your own personal traumas and your own, all these things, just being here in this moment, which is so tricky for a lot of people,
It's
you
so
know?
tricky. And then what happens when we're not here in this moment, we're then fragmented. And now most parts of us will be just stuck in the past. And we're not able to create like from this clear now moment. And so everything, like this is the framing that's always so helpful for me, is that there's no such thing as the future. There's future potentials being drawn to whatever state we're currently holding. And
Right.
so if we don't even know who we are in this now moment, then we're not aware of what we're drawing to us.
Yes. That's so
Mhm.
important. So
Mhm.
super important. And it's also important on a macro level as we're kind of figuring out where we're going next. With we don't like really what's going on right now. Okay, then what do we want to envision? Or what do we want to, but you do have to be grounded in order to do that because you have to be grounded in the truth of what is now, not where you're fragmented and all those, what comes with not being grounded.
That's
Uh,
right.
yeah. So, do you have any tips? I like that you talked about, feeling the soles of your feet and just kind of,
Mhm.
putting your feet on the ground and putting your hands. And it's interesting, you're talking about putting your hands on the ground because when you put your feet on the ground, it's like that energy is going up basically to your root chakra, right? And so when you
Mhm.
put your hands on the ground, then you're connecting your heart. And so it's really interesting. That is powerful. And what comes to mind visually for me when you said that is, putting your feet on the ground next to a tree and then putting your hands on the tree is so super powerful. And they've actually done a lot of studies to show that it can impact your circulation, your respiratory, all of your systems in your body in a really beneficial way. In fact, down to your blood. There's benefits
Mhm.
in your blood if you do it for something like only 30 seconds. So, grounding, being in nature, you guys are living out in the middle of this beautiful, farmland, and you're able to do that. For people who are kind of, you were just in Manhattan, right? Like it's
Mhm.
such a different experience there with all the people and the noise and all of that. For people who are in that type of space and they just want to
Hey,
ground and they're
just a
feeling
little break
overwhelmed
here
with
so that I
everything,
could
do you have
invite
any
you to
tips for
join me
people?
in my monthly Confident Intuition workshop. You can find out more information at confidentintuition.com, or if you go to my website at brittmichaelian.art, it's just under the services there as the Confident Intuition workshop. And it's really just for anybody who wants to develop a stronger connection with your intuition so that you can operate in the world with more clarity and confidence. And I really stress the confidence piece of it because if you come every month, you will be developing your intuition and we'll be doing exercises and you'll get support. There's a Q&A. And it's just a really great way to know that you're always tapping into your inner wisdom. So if it sounds interesting to you, go check out confidentintuition.com. Thanks so much, and back to the show.
Absolutely. This is where, honestly, the focusing on the bottoms of the feet, it has carried me through many years, especially as I was strengthening my sense of being grounded. And it wasn't my homeostasis.
Mhm.
So oftentimes if I go into, because I can easily get kind of derailed in social situations, and if I'm around a lot of people. And so grounding for me really is just pausing. Like I'm doing this right now as I'm speaking to you. I'm feeling the bottoms of my feet.
Mhm.
And the idea behind that is that wherever you place your attention, your energy follows. And so this is a very simple, easy way to start bringing your energy back
Mhm.
down as you're just focusing on your feet. And it can be done anywhere. So it can be done, you're at a party, you're in a social situation, you're walking on the subway, you're walking in Manhattan, and there's a lot of things going on, and you don't have maybe the luxury to go and take your shoes off and go plant them on the earth. It's just a simple, like, it's so simple. It's just really feeling the bottoms of your feet, feeling them hit the earth, feeling them hit the ground. Or if you have the moment, like I just took an hour and a half train ride, and I just paused and felt the bottoms of my feet, and I would actually just move into awareness, like, what am I noticing? Like, are they tingling? Are they, what temperature are they? And just becoming more aware and noticing. But
Yeah.
then there's one other thing that I really find important, especially for me, especially for somebody who was at war with her body for so many years. I bless my body. I think
Mm.
it's so important to start proactively strengthening our relationship with our body, because first of all, like, this really is this sacred, sacred vessel that gives us this opportunity to have this beautiful, rich experience where we can feel the bandwidth of emotions, but also we can create in the tangible, in the material, through this body. And we cannot create to our fullest potential if we're resenting and we're hating our body and we're in separation with our body. So for me, this is part of grounding, is
Mhm.
honoring the body. And so one thing I do frequently, especially to try to rewire some deep patterns of, resentment towards my body, is I will just do a beautiful, simple breath into the heart. Through a lot of practice, I can come into heart coherence fairly simply. And then when you come into coherence, it's like you're activating the heart, and presence infused with love, which is a blessing in my opinion. Blessing that attention to your heart, like or to your body, and sending your whole body a blessing, has the capability to not only reinforce your deep respect and reverence and sacredness for this human body, but also if the human body is feeling any type of dis-ease, it also has the capability to bring your physical body back into harmony.
Mm. I love that. That's awesome. So,
Mhm.
how does this awareness of grounding and what you're just talking about with this lovely practice of blessing your body, how does that play into being a mom and a wife, just in your family?
Okay, so wonderful question. I would say that I would be so much more evolved if I didn't have a 10-year-old strong-willed child.
Testing, testing.
Testing. And so, yes, he's, for both, I can speak on behalf of my husband too. Theo is our biggest training right now. And, he's strong-willed. There's, these power dynamics. And he can also have a little bit of a temper. And so what I noticed was the importance of, when I had the capability to have choice because of practice, when I could really just land, feel the bottoms of my feet, just come here now, that really supported Theo. That actually supported him in actually feeling more safe, because probably something that he's going through, he's not feeling a sense of safety. And so if we join him in that, just feeling uncentered, then that just adds to him feeling, more unsafe. So being grounded is so energetically helpful for our children, especially the more sensitive they are.
Yeah.
So I would say that that is probably the biggest way it shows up in our life.
And do you talk to Theo about being grounded or give him tools? Yeah.
We have to, just because of the nature of the work that my husband and I do, we have to talk about energy. We have to talk about entities. You know, we have those conversations in our home because, you know, children are susceptible to all of this as well. And for whatever reason, you know, my son's path, we were really, led and guided to talk about this with him so that he could start learning how to claim his own space and how to come back home. And he notices the shifts. He notices, you know, we have to walk that line like most modern families with the screen.
Mhm.
And it scrambles the energy field, and it is a great opportunity for other things to slip in. And so we talk about this with him, and with the you know, other people may have language that works best for their family and their children. But the importance of energy hygiene and to coming back and claiming your territory.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something that's definitely a part of our family.
Good. Yes. So important. And I feel like this next generation is just going to be, there are more and more people having these types of conversations with their kids. So I feel like that's just going to continue to expand, you know, and
Agreed.
yeah. So it'll be very interesting to see what this next generation does and, you know, moving forward. So I think that just leads us into a really perfect time to just do a little grounding, maybe energy hygiene practice, just to get the listeners, give them a taste of grounding.
Wonderful. All right, so let's begin by just taking our awareness, our attention, and bringing it to the breath. I oftentimes like to begin at the breath because the breath is a nice bridge between the physical and the spiritual, and it's always in that eternal present moment. And so bringing your awareness to your breath and just landing there, starting to shift into the noticer, the observer. Noticing your breath, noticing my voice, but not sticking, not adding thought, just being aware. And if you do notice you get pulled into a thought, the moment you notice, you are now present. And the moment you notice, you now have choice. Do I continue with that thought, or do I direct my attention back to my breath? And so bringing your awareness, your attention back to your breath. And then we'll bring our attention to the heart. Just do a simple breath into the heart, breathing in and breathing out. The heart center begins to activate just simply through our attention, through our presence of it. So as we breathe in and out of the heart, our heart waves, our heart energy starts to come more online, starts to move into our field, creating inner harmony, coherence. And I invite us to bring our attention down to the ground. Just notice your feet. Notice the bottoms of your feet, wherever you are drawn to right now, around the feet, the ground. Remembering that wherever we place our attention, our energy follows. And so now subtly our energy starts moving down into our field. And this is what I like to describe as being embodied. This is when we become more embodied. When we start moving and distributing our energy down into our body. So we are fully here in this moment on this earth. Just blessing the earth through our intention and our attention, just breathing. And then blessing your whole body. So just sending a blessing, remembering that blessings are just presence infused with the heart. And so it's a frequency. And it has the power to bring anything in discord back into harmony, including the body. And now from this more coherent, clear state of being, we empty into the earth whatever's not of love, whatever's not present, we just let go of without overthinking, staying in this place of being, but just letting go. And then bringing our awareness back to the heart, thanking our body, thanking the earth, feeling the blessings for this beautiful human experience. And we take one deep breath in together. And then we exhale. And I always like to close with the words, and so it is.
Beautiful. Oh, that was so good. My cat wanted to get in on it all, of course.
The cats love it.
I know, they do. She could just feel your energy. She's like, I want some of that. Yeah, this was great. Okay, so I know that people who are listening are just like absolutely in love with and amazed with and feeling so good with all of the energy and awareness that you just brought through. So if anybody wants to, know what you're up to and how they can find you and work with you potentially, what do you have going on that we can share?
So one thing that is one of my kind of staples, Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern for 30 minutes, I always offer a group energy healing similar to what we just did. We get grounded, we come into the heart, we feel our higher nature, and we raise our frequency. And it's really powerful to do this together in community and be so consistent, especially with all the shifts that are happening, especially with the instability. It's a way to come back into center. And it's also a way to remember the energy of oneness. And the more that we do this and we awaken our inner light, our inner divine nature, the more that we start to move into a sense of we versus me. And that means that everything we start creating and expressing and touching is actually just naturally supporting the greater good. So this is also the inspiration behind this mentorship program that I recently opened about 4 months ago, was to support people in really awakening that sense of one, because people are craving it and they have forgotten it. And it really is a practice. And so that's another way that you can work with me, is through my mentorship or just through a one-on-one where we do an energy clearing and a realignment. But for now, that's my support right now.
Beautiful. And your one-on-one sessions I have experienced, and they're just absolutely amazing. You leave and you're just like lit up and you feel so amazing. So yeah, you are very just a light in this world, Roya. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Britt. I love